Oh my God. This is better than regular school. I'll be mad when I miss a live video. That's a good way. That's a good way to start the live. Definitely a good way to start the live. This better than regular school. I'd be mad when I'm. Yeah, we all that skip school. I think we all that skip school. Alexa, come down here for a second. All right, we'll wait till we get a couple people in here. As always, at least 10 people when we get started. I'm gonna have to grab my notes from yesterday or the other day, cause I got one of my clients' phone numbers. I wanna call him during this particular this live, so I gotta find his number. Did you throw away the notes from the other live? All right, I need it. I gotta get somebody's number off of there. Oh, well, actually, y'all, it should, yeah. Okay, I can get it. Okay. Do I still got that cookie on the counter? Give me that cookie on the counter. So that's done. Get this phone number out. Right there. All right, let me see if he's gonna be available. Hey, how you doing? I'm on my live, my 7 o'clock. I started at 7:30. I was trying to see if he was gonna be available today for this live. I'm on here right now. They were watching me talk to you. Yeah. Oh, you ready now? All right. All right. Let me. I got you on speaker.
Okay, sir.
All right, they can hear you.
All
Just.
right, how's everybody doing tonight?
Obviously, they can't. They'll have to respond in the chat. But just introduce yourself. Let them know who you are. We are going to talk about should you go to college or shouldn't you, the pros and cons,
Okay, did you say should you go to college?
or shouldn't you? Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, hello everybody. It's a pleasure to be on with you guys. My name is Licious, and I came across Todd's channel approximately 4 weeks ago, just doing usual searches, looking at different videos and stuff, and I happened upon his channel with some of the material, and it struck my interest. So I started watching more and more stuff and listening to the stuff that he had to say, and I just ventured out. I gave him a call. I think I sent him an email first, and then gave him a call, and just explained my situation at the time, what I was looking for, especially after having worked with, I say about 3 or 4 people performing credit repair, and the reviews were mixed at that point, up and down. So I was just shocked by Todd's willingness to just stay on the phone and talk and listen. I mean, we went well over an hour in the first conversation. And in fact, he's also from Detroit too, was an added plus. So that's how I got to know Todd. and just really asking some really specific questions, and he had more than specific answers. So I felt good about that, and I decided to give him a try with credit repair for myself, and the rest is history. I mean, I've just been impressed every live, every conversation, and my respect grows more and more by the day. So, and then as I saw he started doing the live performances, that really kind of took the cake. So, again, it's just, I told him before, they're not, I don't consider them YouTube videos, they're really classes. And so I really sit back and I listen to, I read everyone's comments and things of that nature, and just pick up nuggets along the way. So I'm really, really happy with things, but that's not even the best of it. The thing that really sunk it in, we had a conversation after I think the first round came back. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And I told him, I said, well, you know, for the first round, what I'm noticing and what we're still trying to do is sift through the stuff that the other folks are doing, so-called credit repair. And as we're sifting through their non-results for the most part, and he's kind of, you know, we're talking, I just said, you know, for example, I had a lot of late payments in 2019, I want to say 2018, 2019, going through a difficult patch. And so just from a vanity standpoint, I wanted to remove. Now, I've been told by, you know, several folks, like, well, you know, those points are not really the payments. They're not really counting towards your score right now. But nonetheless, they were like, hey, if you want to get a house, you're doing better. You're above 620, 640. So you could get it. And I understood, but I used to be at around comfortably I want to say 786. And so even at that time, I had no clue the power of credit, the power of those numbers. And so from a vanity standpoint, I'm like, well, I want to get back up there. I kind of thought I was marching toward 800 even at that time. But he just said, hey, listen, you know, you could do one of two things. You could either, we could keep challenging it, but it's an open account, which makes it a little bit more difficult, or we could just try to close them and delete them altogether. You know, just being honest. And that is more honesty and strategy that I'd had in 6 or 7 years, you know, going for this thing. That's another reason why I kind of locked the respect in. But the biggest thing that Todd did for me and us, ultimately, my family, ultimately, putting us in a stronger credit position, the biggest thing Todd did was something amazing. And I wasn't really even expecting it. We were talking one day, I can't remember about what, but I mentioned, I said, well, you know, Todd, I really want to go for the Chase products and then cap it off with Amex. And so I said, what I'm kind of concerned about, Amex just keeps turning me down. I don't know what it is, but I just cannot crack them. My wife, when she got started with credit, she got an Amex on her own name. I couldn't even get one. So I was authorized using her card for several years ago, but I could never just get it standing on my own. And so I said, so before I try them again, tell you what I did. I really want to get rid of those other inquiries, especially my Spirit and start. So he tells me, hey, tell you what you do when you get back from, you know, picking up, going to the kids' school, give me a call. I'll walk you through it step by step, and we'll, you know, go from there. I said, okay. As I'm driving back from the school, I get a call. Hey, guess what? You know, I went ahead and took care of him. Like, what? So who does that? You know, this is a guy that just cares. And, you know, again, that's just the kind of thing. I don't even consider it so much a business relationship anymore. It's almost like even though it's, you know, we still haven't met yet, it's a friendship. It's just such a respect. You can tell a person's genuine nature through a phone, through their actions. Their actions speak louder than words anyway, but I just, you know, and then to watch him as he's helping other folks too, it just locks it in. So that's just, you know, kind of part of my own personal experience with Todd, and ultimately the Excellent Credit Matters family. And it's just something that's why I just want people to know, if you can, you know, you hear me, as I'm at home, and a lot of times, like the last couple of days, if I don't say a lot, but I'm online, I'm usually doing something. I usually listen to this show, you know, like other shows I consider to be important. I just let it play in the background. And, you know, I do my gardening, I do something in the lawn, I'm cleaning up in the basement or whatever, and I'm just listening. And that way I'm learning as I'm listening too. That's just what I really value. And so I can't think of another way to be able to express how important I think the relationship is and the help is. And we're just getting started. So I'll stop talking now, Todd, but that's just a little bit about me.
Oh, that was you know, that might have been the same level as Mr. Nelson introducing himself. So
Oh no, I hope Ray Nelson hears this. I cannot hold a candle to Ray Nelson.
oh Lord. All right. So I'll let you, I'll let you kind of start off with your pros, just one at a time, and we'll kind of break
Mm-hmm.
down, why you should go to college or why you shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, first we're gonna start off with the pros. I'll let you give a pro, and then I'll give a
Mm-hmm.
pro, and we'll kind of just keep bouncing until we get to the cons, and then we'll come up with like some type of conclusion, between both.
Sure. Well, I tell you what. Now, I came up. I'm from the '70s. I guess I'm a '70s baby. So
Hmm.
when we were coming up, our parents always instilled in us the need to go to school, the need to get a good education, and so that for us, for the most part, by default, that's just what it was. A lot of folks don't understand. Some of the younger folks now don't understand that the Cosby Show for a lot of Black Americans was really closer to reality than The Wire, for example, on HBO. And so, literally, I came up in a household, had a mom, had a dad. They both worked. We went to school. We took vacations. That was a normal life. And so that's kind of what we identified with. So the thought of not going to college was that wasn't a thought. That wasn't a conversation.
Mm.
And so that's because of, the kind of upbringing that our parents went through coming up through segregation. And the thing with the thought process was always, hey, listen, you have to make sure that you take advantage of the openings now that legally just weren't there for you before. That's the best way to pay homage to the folks that came before. So, in that mindset, people of my generation, that's just, college was always, of course, the answer was always, of course, go to college, And so here we find ourselves in 2021. And so what I think that is evident right now, and we have not had a conversation as a people. When I say people, just for the most part, African Americans,
Mm-hmm.
and then Americans in general, even in demographics in terms of 20 to 30, 30 to 40.
Mm-hmm.
We have not really had a conversation of, okay, what does college mean at this point? Because the world is literally changing, and pandemic showed us how fragile we are. Well, before I even get on that, so if you want to talk about a pro, I think one of the pros would be is positioning yourself. First of all, going to college, making the decision to go to college, is a decision that helps. To me, that helps to crystallize in your mind and in your being and your energy and your aura,
Mm-hmm.
that I want to take a step in the positive direction. So that's the first thing I would say is the decision to do so, not necessarily doing it or not, but the decision to do so shows that, number one, okay, I see myself trying to go. I want to better myself. Want to go in a direction for building up. So that would be the first thing that I throw out there.
All right. All right. For me, I'm gonna start off with let's see. I'll say probably increase marketability. All right. By going to college, and having a degree, you're gonna be more in demand. Obviously depending on your career choice. But that's the first pro that I want to give. Like I said, when you have a degree, whether it's associates, bachelor's, or master's, versus just having a high school diploma, you're definitely going to be more in demand when seeking out job offers, things of that nature. Yeah, so like I said, you can kind of piggyback off of what I said as far as marketability, and then I'll kind of bounce off what you said originally.
Sure, sure. Well, I tell you what, if I'll throw out along with it, I guess my point number two.
Mm-hmm.
But some of this, for the listening audience, some of this has to be tempered with the fact that I'm going to pepper in some other things that are adjusted for reality, adjusted for 2021, going into 2022. Now, for my profession, I travel for a living. So literally, in the average week, 6-day run, I probably touched all four corners of the U.S. in a 5 to 7 day time frame. And prior to pandemic, I was literally in another country twice a week. Could be Amsterdam, Netherlands, could be Paris, France, London, England. That's just, by the nature of the job, that's just how things went. So my perspective is colored by that, experience. Mm-hmm. And so knowing what I see now, and I was telling Todd, I was telling you this earlier, the internet shrank the world. And so by literally what I mean by that is that, okay, we're talking now, both of us in Detroit, but you could easily be in Istanbul. You could easily be in Lagos, Nigeria. You could easily be in any one of those places, mm-hmm. all across the globe. We're maintaining real-time conversation. Mm-hmm. So what's happening now is the ability for people to do a service, to provide advice, to to even work on someone's website. That's been changed so drastically, even in the 4 years before pandemic, and now with new pandemic realities, it's almost become accepted to the point where it's not a pie in the sky. Let me think about this. Let's talk about the event. No, it's like, no, this is the way we do business now. That changed. So in terms of going to college, I want to pepper that with, in terms of pros adjusted to reality. You have to realize, you have to really put a lot of time into deciding what are you trying to do ultimately, because college is a great place to not only learning is only part of the experience of going to college. The other part of it is the networking, and that is crucial. And I never really thought about it. And as a result, we were always told you're going to college to get an education. That's fine and dandy. But at the same time, hey, listen, almost 50% and maybe more of what you're going to be doing there is developing relationships with your roommates, with their friends, in the class, your classmates and stuff. I mean, literally, the residue from college is the networking. Mm-hmm. And as we know right now, networking is power. Networking is power. You don't have to be the smartest person on the job, but you kind of almost have to be the one that everybody is willing to go to or take their advice on a given thing. So I'll let that be my number 2, networking.
I love that. I love that. You took something off of my list with the networking, and I like how you went into that. It's not about I'll let you finish it. It's not about no, like I'll let you finish it. It's not about you know the saying.
Oh, did I say something?
Yeah, no. I'm saying, do you know the saying? It's not about.
Oh, it's not about what you know is who you know.
Thank you. Look, it took a minute. It was a delayed. All right, so the next pro that I like to go into is college gives you a preparation for a specialized field. So, for example, I would say education, health, you get what I'm trying to say. Like I say, you got to go into nursing. Like I said, you're trying to do something. You're trying to become a principal or something like that. So some of these fields are going to require a minimum of a associate's degree. So like I said, certain career fields is going to require you to go to college. It's just no way around it. I don't know too many lawyers that didn't go to college. You get what I'm trying to say. So that would probably be my next pro. Yeah. But okay, all right, your turn.
I would say, kind of piggybacking on what you just mentioned there in terms of being able to get the specialized education, I think that, well, you know what? Let me, I'll veer left for a hot second. The other big advantage of going to college is the experience that you get to grow up. Part of the experience is actually developing into finding your true self. You really can't find it at home because you live under mom and dad's roof and you're under their rules. And you have such a protection in terms of, hey, you're not worried about gas and lights and water being on. Your parents got that. You're not worried about food in the fridge. Your parents got that. You don't worry about where you're going to stay. Your parents have all that stuff. So even though you do feel as a senior in high school, junior in high school, hey, I got it all figured out, this is easy, okay, I got you. But you've got to get temper tested. You've got to get tested in that fire to really understand who you are and to see what your mettle is. I give you a case in point. There could be a couple. All of us, that can listen can name different stories. But when I grew up, my mom especially, was always very somewhat strict with me in education and just other activities. There was never a case, even though we had a TV in the house, the TV was never to be indulged in. Okay, you can watch a program or two, that's fine, but the saying was always, if you got time to be watching TV, you got time to get your lesson. You got time to be reading. And so just, growing up, that's just always the way it was. That was in my programming. And even though at the time I would kind of feel like, oh, come on, it's not that much, this and that. Hey, it didn't matter. I just knew that my mom doesn't want me really watching that much TV, so I just don't do it. And I would do other things. We'd go outside, we'd play had books. You know, it was nothing because I was, brought up in a young age of reading. Reading was nothing for me. That was actually as good as Wi-Fi is today. And so anyways, that's how I was brought up. So when I went to college and I'll never forget this, got dropped off in Atlanta. I was going to DeVry Institute at that time. And at the time, DeVry didn't have dorms. They contracted out with apartments all around the Atlanta area. And so we were at an apartment complex, I think Oakwood Apartments off of Memorial Drive and Covington Highway. Never forget that. And we had an apartment. There were 4 other people in the apartment. So each apartment was 2-bedroom, had 2 people per room. So you basically had a roommate because you had either bunk beds or separate beds. And so 4 people were basically in there. Now, what you did, in terms of full-time student or working other jobs was you, but that was you and those were your roommates in that kind of setup. And so there'd be plenty of times when, we had an apartment with all the fixings. So you had a TV, dining room table, sofa, whatever. And there were plenty of times I would be there both by myself and other roommates. But I literally, that was one of the first times, okay, I'm by myself. It took a minute, it took weeks to get used to the fact that, hey, I can do what I want. I can do what I want, but I instinctively would go to bed and I'd be in bed by 9 o'clock, 9:30. I did not watch a lot of television, even though it was there. I just wasn't into it, but I'd be doing something, reading or whatever. And we really didn't have cell phones like that at that time either. You had a landline, but I just found myself, continuing the training that I've been brought up in my parents' household. Mm-hmm. And so I started to discover things. I started to discover what I liked and what I didn't like. That was possible because of that college experience. Now, anybody can go away. I'm not saying that you have to have college and get on, discover where you are. But I'm just saying in this particular sense of going to college, that's another part of the experience because you truly, at that point, that's when the baby is taken out of the bathwater and it's time to say, okay, how all these 18 years of training, how did you guys do? What am I doing now? Am I performing, underperforming? How did I do? So that's another byproduct of the college experience.
Okay. We got a couple people joining now. They was a little late, but they coming in. All right, so let's. I'm a numbers guy. All right, so let's talk about numbers. So for me, I'm gonna say my next pro will probably be, when you go to college, you got a higher earning potential. So, like I said, let's go into numbers. So the average person that does not have a high school diploma, all right, they make around $520 a week. And they bring in about $27,000 annually, all right? The average person who has a high school diploma, they bring in about $712 a week, and then they're bringing in about $37,000 annually, all right? The average person who has an associate's degree, all right, they're bringing in about $846 a week, and they're they're averaging about $43,000 to $44,000 annually. All right, so without even going into master's degrees, bachelor's degrees, we see the difference. All right, just based on the level your highest level of education. Like I said, I don't want to go too far deep into why I chose a trade over college. I'll kind of save that for the end. But I had my own master plan on why college was not the right choice for me. I wasn't in a household where college was necessarily required, but if that was something that I wanted to pursue, my family would have made it possible. As far as tuition is concerned. But like I said, I had a master plan, and ultimately it worked out in my favor. But I'll discuss that after we get through the cons of things. But yeah, that would probably be, my next, like I said, I had to put numbers in there somewhere so people can kind of get a feel of, all right, well, yeah, he's right. I didn't have a high school diploma, and I do make around $500, a week. Like I said, $500 a week, depending on, where you stay at, in the United States, it might not be too bad. I've met a couple people that, they're out of their mouth. If I make $700, a week, I'm happy. I can take care of all my bills. I still got money left over. I just think it depends on where you're at. And obviously, if you stay in California, $2,000, a month, you would, be starving. But let's just say you stay in South Carolina or North Carolina. You might have a better sense of living. But yeah, so like I said, I don't want to go too deep, but yeah, like I said, I just wanted to put some numbers in there, and then I'll let you go with your next pro.
Okay, and you're right. We do have to circle back on that point, adjusted for 2021 right now, because of what we're seeing realities just in the marketplace and the realities of what pandemic showed us as a global society, not just local and not just national, but literally, what happened to people and systems all over the globe. So you're right. That's probably one of the first things when we go to the cons, we kind of circle back around on to kind of to get on that point. I think if I have the next point that I would make as far as pros is understanding, once again, once you identify the reason that you're going to college, you're going for necessarily a liberal arts degree or, some other things that are not as specific as for example, a neurosurgeon or, I don't know, engineer, structural engineer, architect. With the new realities, we have to kind of take a second look at that because of what you're seeing right now with them trying to push student loan forgiveness. But I would say the biggest thing is once you have identified the degree that you're passionate about that you're going to really use, then the other advantage being in college is you're literally in the workshop. And I'll just go back to my experience even at DeVry. DeVry had at that time. But I'm sure not too much has changed since then, but I'll just say at the time, going into the early 90s, DeVry had one of the best, I thought, computer engineering / electrical engineering programs I had ever seen because it was absolutely hands-on. There was no, okay, you open up a book, you talk about it for 3 or 4 hours. No, you were in there. There were wires, there were cables, there were machines everywhere. So for those students that were in those programs, I was always secretly jealous of them because I'm like, you guys are throwing down in here. I mean, you're like a dad's workshop, and you are really, there is no theory, no, there's practice. And there's another thing, too, that I use to kind of back up on that, again, that we have to start, I think, looking at how we approach educating kids, especially in the school systems, but, even beyond the school systems, the extra stuff. I always have a saying that I got through real life experience. Never be afraid to get the wrong answer. Never be afraid to get the wrong answer. Be afraid of not knowing how to get the right one. That's the key. Because you go in the process of getting good. Michael Jordan didn't just start off being as great as he was. Kobe Bryant the same way too. They didn't just start off that way. They kept practicing and honing it in until eventually it became unstoppable. They were champions. And so if you ever notice something, I'll give you another example. In a past life, and I worked in politics, my boss and I were leaving a radio station one day. We were tired. It was about 8 o'clock at night. And so we were in the car, and the person driving the car happened to stop, because someone was about to get in some type of accident above us. So we actually stopped with the space, and that put us dead set in front of, you're from Detroit, so you know this Penobscot building downtown. And so the Penobscot building has an alley behind it, and then the next building next to it that escapes my mind. It's not a lot of clearance. I want to say maybe 13, 14 feet of clearance in that alley. It's really narrow. And so there's a semi-truck driver that was backing his tractor into that alley. And I'm telling you now, he may have had 6 inches of clearance on either side, maybe 6. And, how you're looking at something, you're looking at it, but you're not looking at it, but you're in that direction. Then all of a sudden, some people are like, what am I watching here? And so I'm looking at this guy, and he's just slowly backing it in. He's putting it in reverse and taking it back about 2 or 3 feet, and then he's putting it in forward. He's bringing it up a little bit, then putting it in reverse, back and more 3 or 4 feet, putting it in. This went on for like 2 minutes. And I'm just looking like, wow, this guy's in it. I didn't know my boss was looking at the same thing. He said something that never left me. He said, brother, there's nothing like watching a master at work. You're right. You're right. It's just, there's sometimes there's just no shortcuts to doing anything. You have to do it, and you might have a lot of steps to doing it, but eventually done right, you get to that destination. Well, college is one of those environments, if used properly, that's the key. If used properly, sharpens your metal. It allows you to leave that institution and hit the workplace fresh, with fresh perspectives, fresh training, fresh lingo, and being a contributor from the time that you hit the floor. So once again, that to me would be another pro of going to institutions like that, is that your purpose is to get in there and to mess up enough to become good, and then get out there and really use that degree to effect change.
All right. Let's start touching on cons. All right. I'm gonna kick it off with cons. So
Mm.
if I graduated tomorrow, all right, one of the cons would probably be whatever I studied for 4 years or 6 years or 10 years. I might not end up working in that field. So that that's one of the biggest one of the biggest cons. I go to school to be a doctor, and I end up being a teacher or something. I see that happening a lot. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but you tend to graduate, and all this work that you put in order to study something is not able to be applied, because the what you thought you were going to become after graduation, like I said, the job, it just isn't available, or you might have to do a big move or something across the country, or you might have to. Some people have to actually leave the country in order to get into certain fields. But I would say that's probably one of the major cons. You get you're in high school. You got this big dream of being a neurosurgeon or something like that, and you graduate and you find out that that job isn't available wherever you stay at. So that also goes into the pro that you just mentioned about networking. Because some people, when they graduate, they already have a job waiting on them. But I'm talking about those people who don't. You know what I'm saying? Have that connection that they've already established. Maybe in high school, or maybe your parent. Your father or mother. Is friends with somebody that works at the hospital that you plan on working at or something like that. I'm not talking about like these small occasions. I'm talking about like the average person. So like I said, that's gonna be my first con. Like I said, you graduate and you don't fall into the field that you study for. So that would probably be my first con.
Yeah, I think piggybacking on that too, folks have to understand that graduation is probably the true beginning of your life, because it's at that point where you finished, again, I don't want to say adolescent, but you finish the play years, the party years. And so now the real work begins when you're handed the certificate, you walk across the stage, and you throw everything up into the air, and then the student loan payments start another 6 months. So it's not necessarily the guarantee of anything. And you're right, there are some people that have worked the college system the right way. Luckily, within the last year and a half, to have something waiting on them, they probably interned, which would be smart while they're in there too. If there are opportunities for that. But it is, literally, as you're leaving university, unless you prepared properly for it, you're going to be stepping into a world of uncertainty. Listen, I worked when I was a waiter in a restaurant. A couple of restaurants. The other waiters in that restaurant were accountants. Some of them were nurses. I remember, the person that was, doing, HVAC. I had an HVAC guy in there too, which I was shocked by. I've never seen anyone say that they couldn't find a good, we had a overabundance of HVAC people. But the point was just, you saw a lot of people in those fields that were like, wait a minute, you guys have credentials. Why are you doing this? Hey, they got to put food on the table too. So it's not the guarantee of anything, per se. And again, if you haven't worked that system in the proper way while your time was there, you could be heading into a bit of uncertainty.
Okay. All right. Let's get a little into numbers. Another con would probably be the student loan debt. All right. So as of 2020, over 44 million Americans have combined at least 1.5 billion dollars in student loan debt. All right. So that is astronomical. I look at credit reports on a day-to-day basis. I got, I got clients with $250,000, in student loan debt. They're not doctors. They're, you know what I'm saying? They're not lawyers. I got clients with $500,000 in student loan debt. you know. And then when you kind of try to break down a game plan on tackling the debt, you know, nobody has a sense of urgency, you know. I have yet to hear somebody with 200 to $500,000 worth of debt like, all right, you know, I'm gonna take 80% of my check or 50% of my check and apply it weekly until this debt gets paid off. You know, everybody kind of puts it on the back burner. So it goes into another statistic. The average person dies with I can't remember the exact number, but the average person dies with the student loan debt that they acquired from college. The average person. So the average person doesn't even, you know, have a, like I said, have a plan of attack on knocking down the debt. It's just one of the debts that lingers like somebody's entire life. So, you know, if you're going to school, you know, like I said, no matter what you're trying to do, you know, you want to have the intentions on paying it back. And then I know a lot of people don't agree with paying a debt back simply because they might not have finished school. So that goes into another con. The average person that goes to college does not even graduate. Okay, or the average person that went to a 4-year college does not graduate within 6 years. I mean, like we could talk statistics all day. But go ahead, I'll let you piggyback off of, you know, what I just said.
No, you're right. But again, we only got to this level of clarity on the college slash student loan debt experience really within the last 5, maybe 7 years as a society. We only really started talking about that for the most part. For the longest period, college was automatic, and for the longest period of time, I think that, you know, the belief was, I don't know about the reality, but the belief was when you go to college and when you finish with that paper, you're able to then put yourself in some type of job that will eventually pay it off. And if a fallback, you could always do like government service or something like that. If you couldn't make it in the private sector, but at least having that paper on any given thing that in any given job you have to go into allowed you to eventually to recoup your costs, your return on investment, you know, for the most part. And then suddenly it just stopped being the case. You know, the technology has just changed in a lot of ways, and it's not stopping. It's just going to keep going forward. I think, you know, we all know pandemic has actually forced societal change, things that we never would have thought doing online or contactless. Well, that's the norm now. And so how do we adjust? It happened so quick. We never really had the ability to say, okay, well, if this happens, then we'll do an if-then scenario. If this happens, then we'll adjust this way. You never had a chance to adjust. Mm-hmm. And you knew the problem when major presidential candidates start campaigning on it with fervency. So that lets you know right there, hey, there's a real problem here with these guys that, you know, they did everything you said they're supposed to do. They went to college, the Ivy League schools, they got a, you know, $100,000 you know, education between the both of them, 200 grand at least just in student loan debt, and yet they can't shop it anywhere. And so, and again, here's the other thing too that we didn't really even touch on too. The job that you're trying to petition for to do online because you're not returning to work, 40% of people saying they're not going back to work. You do realize that the kids in India and Thailand can do it now too, Philippines, because they also speak English. So, you know, let's get real about this thing. I mean, you don't want to go to work, that's fine. There are a couple other people that can do it, and later on AI will step in as well too. So we got to, you know, again, I'm not trying to belittle anyone's experience. We're just saying that, hey, listen, the times have changed, and we have not even figured out where we're going. But one thing is clear: we're not going back to yesteryear. So how do we make this work? But I'll make that for my other point too coming up.
All right. Well, I was gonna save it for the end, but let me kind of intervene and you know, mention something that I stated on a previous live. So with me, when I graduated high school, I had no intentions on going to college. Now, if I did go to college, the only thing that I wanted to pursue at that time was to be a psychologist. All right, that was the only interest that I had, you know, at that point. So my idea or my mindset, you know, as a senior in high school, I said, all right, 80% of the people that I'm graduating with have a plan to go to college. All right. The average person that graduates in 4 years, they're gonna graduate, they're gonna go into whatever field. And you know how it was in high school. Everybody kind of knew what they wanted to, you know, like, hey, I'm gonna be a teacher, I'm gonna do this and do that. So it wasn't a lot of people who said they wanted to be a neurosurgeon or a scientist or anything like that. Nothing where the income was over, you know, 70,000, you know, like fresh out of college. So my thought process was, I need to get into a field, a trade. I need to get into a trade where by the time they graduate, I will have been then made the money that they're trying to graduate and make for 4 years, and that's what happened. So I did 4 years in carpentry. Everybody was, everybody, you keep up with people from college, I'm sorry, from high school. Everybody just now graduating. I'm at $40+ an hour. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what they went to school for. So like I said, I was gradually 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, and I'm making the money that they wanted to go to school and make. You get what I'm saying? So, a trade, a lot of people sleep on trades, being an electrician, being a plumber, being a carpenter, especially now in 2021, you have the potential to make $50 to $55 an hour. It was a lot less, back when I was doing it, but like right now it's probably, the wage, the hourly wage is between $50 and $60 an hour easy between, like I said, plumbing and being an electrician, being a carpenter. Like people dream about getting that type of money an hour. Now, given it's not an easy job, but I'm not saying the job is easy. It's definitely physical, and it definitely takes its toll on you in the long term. But it would be the equivalent of being a truck driver, for instance. When you're a truck driver, you're making a lot of money, but over time, you start to develop issues, with your back and things of that nature. You might have sleeping issues in the future because you got to drive 11 hours, and then like I said, I don't want to go too deep into like I said, truck driving. But like I said, the advantage that I felt like I had over everybody else is the 4 years that you're studying to get into the field that you're trying to get into. I'm already learning fresh out of high school, day one. Literally, my first day in carpentry, it was hands on. It wasn't no, you get what I'm saying? Like it wasn't no, hey, no. I'm in the field. I'm with journeyman carpenters that know what they're doing. Hey Ty, we need you to take this out the box. This is how you put it together. I'm learning hands on. So, like I said, I don't regret what I did. If I could go back right now and graduate from high school, would I have made the same decision? Yes. Like I said, even looking at how successful some people from college become, I would not have had the entrepreneur mentality that I do now if I wouldn't have had it then when I graduated from high school. That was just that entrepreneur type of mentality that I had. So even as a carpenter working for somebody else, I always had to, in the back of my mind, I knew that I wasn't created to work for nobody. So like I said, even that point where I'm asking my superintendent, like, hey, how much money you make? Oh, I make $250,000. All right, I gotta quit now because I need to figure out how to make $250,000. So like I said, if I would have went to college, the only way that college makes sense to me is if you're going into an actual career. You know what I'm saying? Like a career, like something that you love. I'm not talking about how much money you're making. I'm talking about you go to school and you literally, this is what you plan on doing the rest of your life. Like I said, nursing, you want to be a lawyer or something like a special, a degree in technology. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. But like I said, when you go to college just to get just to get a check or just to get a certain hourly, you're unhappy. You know what I'm saying? That's not a career. So I know people think I'm tied into how much money you make, but like I said, if you're making $21 an hour and that's something that you love to do, I'm not gonna tell you to change your choice or do something better. But if it's something when you wake up in the morning and you don't want to put on your boots and your suit and tie, then you probably need to change your career choice. Because it's not a career, it's a job. It's a big difference between a career and a job, and we should probably make that another different live topic. Yeah, but yeah, go ahead. I don't want I didn't want to go too far deep into that, but I knew once I started talking about it, I was gonna have to piggyback and say other things. But like I said, that's one of the advantages of not going to college. You have a potential to get ahead of everybody. Like I said, by pursuing a trade. But like I said, a trade comes with its sacrifices. You know what I'm saying? It's not easy and it's very physical. So, some people want to work their brain. That's why a lot of people go to college. They don't want the physical work, or they might, a lot of people might want to go to college so they can be a CEO of a company. But you could be a CEO and not have a degree. We've already figured that out. But yeah, go ahead. Like I said, I don't want to go too deep.
You're making the case, and it's other thing too that I always try to keep in mind, because what's really important is to understand the shared perspectives. You deal with, I think, a client base and maybe even, depending on people that have certain levels of need for credit and because of life situations that I don't have a perspective on. And so that's why that's why I listen, because when you're talking, you're actually, giving me perspective. Sometimes I have a question. I asked you before this a couple of times, and I didn't understand. I couldn't appreciate it until I finally had to realize, hey, listen, you're dealing with another thought process. Like I'm saying, so why in the world would somebody go out here and try to get a Mercedes or a BMW when you haven't accomplished X, Y, and Z yet? And it's like, well, because that's where, that's what they want to do. That's what they feel success looks like.
Well, that goes into the answer to that is people do not believe in delayed success. You got to understand that us as African Americans, we have been down for I don't know how many years. So something as simple as a Mercedes Benz could be a life changing event for somebody. For me or you, a car is probably not our top goal, or nothing that's gonna make us just react crazy. But for somebody else who has never had anything, like I said, they're just chasing that, they're chasing that high, if that makes sense. They're chasing that high. They're chasing that rush. It's the same as saying, somebody gets their first house. It's a 1 bedroom and it's a 1 bath. We might not be able to appreciate that, right? But they're going to be able to appreciate it more because they're coming from an apartment, or they're coming from living with their parents. You never know what nobody been through. So like I said, we can talk all day about a Mercedes Benz, anything with a motor in it having, not being a good choice because it's a liability. But like I said, we can counter argue that, now with the Turo and the higher car and all that, you can make your liability an asset. So, that's kind of like the counter argument when you hear somebody say, oh, why you get that car? Well, I got that car because now I can rent it out and I can rent this other car out, and, I can make, I can get my return. So, but yeah, like I said, we don't want to go too deep into that. Let's, jump back, into,
it's all point. It's the same things. We talked about how, hey, listen, the technology change should open up a bunch of doors. Just in the case of point, how easily a person that made an investment that might be deemed, if their financial planner might have said, hey, that wasn't the smartest choice. But guess what? Because of the advent of technology, you can take that bad financial choice and actually make it work for you with hire a car and Turo or something like that. You have options now you just didn't have before. To have a different, success experience. Mm-hmm. I think my big thing is, I think the biggest thing that we can't downplay enough the fact that the thinking was, even when you made a case of a person, foregoing college, what we used to do, the generation before you guys, is say, okay, well, that's fine and dandy that you want to do X, Y, and Z, but you still need to go to college, make sure you have a fallback plan. We put a lot of pressure on people to go against what their natural yearnings were. And we didn't realize, cumulatively through financial problems that come along with it, plus the technology and society change. So you didn't realize how much you were kind of damping something down. We just didn't know. But it was always pushed that you should do this, you should do this. Now, I'll say this as well. Now, what's happened now? In the pandemic of 2020 and the aftermath in 2021 has shown us, okay, listen, the people who are the gold ring bearers right now, they're tradespeople. They're people that know how to do plumbing, electrical, roofers. They're killing it right now. And these are things everyone, I won't say necessarily looked down on, but never prioritized before because, oh, no, it doesn't have a suit and a tie, and I don't have an office and this and that. So those things were always looked at, that might be a fallback, or maybe if I didn't have any of the options, I could probably do that. Okay, well, now the tables are turned, the earth changed, and those are the folks that are running the world. The truck drivers are the ones that we depend on to get the gas and get the bread and the milk. So now what we should learn from this, going forward is, okay, there has to be a balance. If there's nothing wrong with your kid, for example, saying, I don't think I want to do college. Okay, it's fine, dandy. I respect it, but you still have to have we have to make sure that you have and understand the basics of skills, and understanding that not going to college does not also mean not trying to improve yourself. You still have to take part in trying to do some reading and some education because financial systems change, laws change, strategies change. So, there's nothing wrong with it. That is your choice. There's nothing wrong with that. But understand, okay, not wanting to take a college path does not also necessarily mean, well, I'm just checking out of education altogether. No, that's not what we're saying. And so we have to find a mechanism. I don't know if it's churches, business groups, or, kind of gatherings, but we have to figure out how do we really find the balance and we communicate this thing so that we set everybody up for success. Because ultimately, what has to happen at the end of the day is you can be the best roofer in the world. If you don't know how to manage your money, you're not going to have it long. You have a great career, great skill. You're doing great, but at the same time, if you're not managing it effectively, what's the point here? That still has to ring true somewhere. So, but again, it's just that was really my biggest point in terms of just saying that we used to put a lot of pressure on folks that that were really tapping out a while ago to say, I don't think that's the right path for me, and that's fine again. But if you're not seeking to still go and get your trade, go have your life experience, go take a chance. You know what? Like you said, guess what? There's nothing wrong with you going out and setting up your own lemonade, hot dog stand. If you don't want to college, that's fine. Get your experience. Guess what you might learn? Maybe I do want to go to school, or no, I think I hit it right on the head. I hit the ball out of the park. So don't be afraid to fail, but understand. But also understand. Okay, well, where's your fallback strategy? And when do you pull the ripcord?
Okay. Look, I want to go a little bit into numbers again because I forgot to mention. So, over the past 30 years, the cost of college tuition has doubled. All right, that is a fact. That is a historical fact. So, I just want to go into other countries. We got other countries out here where people are not paying for college. Like, do you think that should be something that's, um, exploited in the United States? Because it's a lot of, like I said, I can name a couple countries where if you live there, you don't have to pay tuition for college.
Yeah, Spain is one of them.
Yeah.
The UK up until recently was virtually nothing. I think they ticked it up a little bit, and those people almost rioted in the streets. So the American experience is not the worldwide experience. You're right about that. I was actually for. If you remember the election, I think Elizabeth. I might be rusty on some of my stuff. I think Elizabeth Warren and maybe very few people that were really kicking up that idea. I like it. I like it on its face. I don't think that. I know that it got shot down in a lot of ways because of cost and some other things that might be um, looked at. But even that I was willing to debate it on too. But I do think that should be something. I wouldn't have a problem if it's built into our the society, the scheme of things, free college tuition. What's funny is when you work in government, and I used to for a little bit of time, you have access to a lot of materials, a lot of reports, and a lot of times in those branches that you work in, be it an executive branch where you have your budget department, even on a legislative side, you usually have something that is a monetary. You usually have a division that also checks what the executive branch said, and they kind of give you the breakdown, so you get a lot of access to see what the pros and cons of things are. I can't remember exactly now, but they were saying some of the cons of what might have happened if you did start doing the free education for everyone. One or two of the points were valid. The other ones were kind of like, I don't remember them being anything groundbreaking, per se. But again, this stuff still comes back to the fact that, okay, you could have a city of 100,000 people, and out of those 100,000 people, 90,000 of them have college degrees, but you're only going to have so many slots for, paying job. In the end of the day, you still could have a case as to where everybody's highly educated and you still got a little bit of unemployment in there, factored in too. And ultimately, you got to make a decision. What are you going to do? What do you do with the education? So it's, that's just kind of what I throw out in there. There's another fact too that I found pretty interesting. I hope I'm not wrong on the numbers. I would have researched it one more time if I'd known, but I thought I saw someone say 70% of the United States makes $35,000 or less. 70% makes $35,000 or less. I'm not wrong on the number. I'm not wrong on the salary, but it might be 60, 65, or 70. But that's still a high number. I believe it because I traveled the U.S. And so, I remember I remember 30 years ago, going to Chicago, for example. Chicago looked one way.
Mhm.
You go to Chicago now, 2020, 2021, Chicago looks damn near totally different. So the demographic changes that have occurred in the not only the economic changes, but just the way that the way that we are going about life as a nation. It's a lot of people are not not doing well. Now, it's evident when you're walking into, I mean, you can take you want to, to some degree, if you really want to find out what that time is worth, take a good trip to the local Walmart there. Just take a good trip to the local Walmart, walk around, you're going to see what you see there.
Mhm.
And Walmart is only one of the few places, but you can get a good grip of what's really going on. You see some things that you start to think about this. Okay, well, if the household is bringing in $35,000, and I see a new car in the driveway here, and a relatively new car over there, you guys are busting to get flat screen TVs. What's left over for savings? What's left over for an investment, something later on? And really, now there's another statistic. It's a high percentage. I want to say almost 60% of people could not put their hands on $2,000 if you gave them 30 days.
Oh my God! Wait, say it louder, because it's gonna be a replay a little later. I like that. I'm actually gonna do some research on that. Say it one more time.
It's about 60%, and the number might be higher, but I'm gonna put it at 60% of Americans cannot put their hands on $2,000 if you gave them 30 days. Now you think about that.
Wait, hold on. I know they heard it, but I gotta say it again. 60% of Americans cannot put their hands on $2,000 if you gave them 30 days. So are you basically saying if they needed $2,000 to stay alive, they'd be dead?
It wouldn't happen.
Oh my God.
That is one of the reasons why, for people that are listening, especially in the live chat, I fully invite them to go and I just can't do it right now.
Mhm.
But they can get Google searches, because that point actually came up a couple of times when they were formulating the stimulus payments, and they were hitting that note on several shows, and they were showing the source. I just can't think of it right now, but that number was emblazoned in my mind, because I was like, wow. And here's the bad part, Todd. Here's the bad part. That number, instead of 2,000, that actually might be 1,000. It might be $1,000.
Somebody said that's true. Desmonique said that's true, Todd.
Yeah, it's I can't, again, if I'd known, I would have had it ready for you, ready to rock and roll. But
Man, you doing great. This ain't hey, if you guys don't know, this is not pre-scripted. I didn't even know if he was gonna take my call, but yeah, it's working out. It's definitely working out. It's always better when everything is just fresh. Yeah.
No, that's true. And so, but like I said, just we'll get the exact facts shaken out. But that's one of the things that kind of when I saw that about a year or so ago, and again, listen, when that number was really originally released, it wasn't pandemic, Todd. This was when, I want to say this was mid to late 2019, and everyone kept saying, oh, there's probably going to be another crash coming. We weren't even talking about pandemic at that time, because everything had been so hot at that point. The economy's booming, so we thought this and that. But, well, it's eventually going to crash. That's what we were saying then, before pandemic. So if people were not stable in 2019, and we hit January, February 2020, landing on our butts and then tumbling down the ladder, it didn't get any better. And so, but a weird thing happened. That's going to have to be debated in classrooms and conversation halls for the next decade or so. What happened to us when? And I know we're kind of off the subject of the college and everything, but we gotta really take into full account what happened to us during the pandemic, because we changed. The nation changed. Our society changed. We became something, and I don't really know exactly what that is. We kind of, in some ways, we kind of took a detour from reality, and it's like in this time out, we just stopped doing some of the basic things, and we deprioritized a lot of stuff. I'll give you another example that I saw firsthand in my line of work. I kept seeing, we would go down to Miami, and on a layover in Miami in the airport, we're walking through, and I remember a couple times in these past couple weeks, I kept seeing women in the gatehouse of the plane. They kept sitting in weird ways on these benches. And I'm like, the first couple times I'm thinking, I saw this girl doing it. She was looking at somebody's laptop. I said, well, she's looking at the laptop. Maybe they're doing a live, whatever. But then I saw it again, just these odd sitting positions. And I'm like, what is going on in Miami? Why are these women doing this? Man, it wasn't until I talked to a coworker later on who was female that told me, boy, they can't sit down because they just got the butt injections. I was like, what? What are you talking about? Yeah, they just got these butt injections. They came down to some doctor in Miami that has these specials, $4,000, $5,000 for butt injections, and they're getting all the butt injections so they can, go back home and and show the improvements. Why is this happening all of a sudden? Well, I've never seen this before. Why did this happen all of a sudden? Well, guess what? Now we got about 2 or 3 rounds of stimulus payments in. So some people may have got about $1,400. Some people got about $9,000. So okay, so we engage something that should be a lifesaver for you financially, but going back to the Mercedes, going back to the BMW purchases, that same type of thinking, you took money that was allocated for you, yourself, and not only you, but several of your other friends, you're all doing the same thing during this period of time. And that's how you chose to invest scarce resources during a pandemic. Oh, got you. Then what do we see? I'm going to Vegas, and I'm going to Vegas. I'm like, wow, what is really going on here? I'm seeing a parade of the same type of person walking through, doing this and that, spending a whole bunch of money here. I'm like, wow, you guys brought $5,000 to $10,000, $11,000 to Vegas, and y'all just blew it all on hotels and drinks and gambling and other stuff, and you're going back broke. We did some things during the pandemic, and it's like, okay, what are we seeing here? Is this an outreach of being? I don't know. Is this an outward expression of being in a dangerous situation and feeling like you only got one life to live? That's what you're doing, or where is the delegation that says, well? And I know there were some. We're going to take this one and invest it. We're going to take this to clear off the debt, and then do some other things too. So I don't know. It's just we saw a lot of different things that we became, and speaking of college, you couldn't go. One of the bad parts about it is with all that time off, I wish college would have been something that would have been open, because maybe you would have seen a lot of people rush in to kind of get some skills, or at least some training and some classes to kind of bone up on some stuff. But I think I veered off a little bit.
No, you good because you good because I was about to veer off too by saying the most money that the average person will ever have in their life is tax money. We can counter argue that it's not tax money anymore because a lot of people got that 20, 40,000 from the PPP loan. But the average person, the most money they'll ever have at one time, will probably came from taxes. That's why you see a lot of that's very sad. You see a lot of mothers having 7 or 9 kids that they can't afford just simply for that February I think February the beginning of the taxes, February, March, waiting on that big tax return. Yeah, that's very sad. I remember I think it was my first year, might have been my first year or my second year as a carpenter. I had, I think it was on Facebook or whatever. I had posted, some money or whatever, and the lady, she was like, "Oh, he must have got his taxes." You know what I'm saying? Like literally, that was the first day I came. Her name was Mercedes. I used to work out with her at Planet Fitness or whatever. But anyway, she was like, "Oh, you must have got your taxes." I said, "Sweetheart, this money that you're looking at, I get every week." You know what I'm saying? Like I don't have to wait till February, March to get taxes. You know what I'm saying? When people of my caliber, people that I associate, when we get our taxes, it's just another check. But for you, it's life changing. You ready to get a big screen TV and furniture? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to go too deep into that, but yeah, like I said, okay, go ahead.
Hey, sorry for interrupting. On what you just said, going forward, because the answer is really this in terms of pros and cons of college. Where we're at right now, going forward, and we just have to have the balls to have this type of deep look, first of all, for people that are just the average, just like me, the average Joe. What we have to stop and do is just say, okay, listen, let me just put this thing apart right now. I see what works, I see what doesn't work. If you're a man, woman of course too, but if you're a man and you had the chance to have about a good, 3-4 decades on the planet, you have a good chance to look around and see how things work and how they don't. You look at other families and other groups and you realize what they're doing, and you look at our group and you realize, okay, what we're missing out on. It's on you to stop and put the brakes on that and get your family together and proceed on a new path. And, one of the sweet things, when you finally meet me, you see I got some gray hair. Not a whole bunch. I'm not Morgan Freeman gray. but I'm kind of going. I'm in the starter pack for gray hair, and I appreciate it. I thought at one point in time I'd be like, oh my God, when I start getting grades, it's just gonna be the end. But I'm gonna tell you something, brother, and I know people that are listening out there can really appreciate the same thing too. There is a sweet pleasure in two things that I enjoy. It's almost better than sugar. The first one is the power of no. The power of no. The sweet taste of being able to tell someone no and mean it and not care what the consequences are. The second thing I would say is the ability to know that you've seen this movie before. So I don't have to sit here and listen to you explain away and try to convince me, because guess what? I saw this with a stepbrother. I saw this with a best friend. I saw this with an office worker. And I know how it ends, bro. I'm good. Keep it moving. As Jack Nicholson said in one movie, sell crazy somewhere else. I'm all stocked up right here. Those two things, brother, give me the most clarity I can ever have in life. And I got it by paying dues, by living and looking at things and finally realizing that you've been, taken a couple times. No, I tell you what, I won't be doing this, but we will be doing this. As adults, the best thing that you can do, and this is another part I kind of want to go into the same discussion. One of the sweet things, especially about college, one of the sweeter things about college you get a chance to do, and I see it still paying off in my adult life right now, is you get a better chance to find a mate that is worth building a life with. Not because the person that goes to college is perfect, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is you get a chance to really look at this other person who could be a potential life partner in the element that you're participating in too, in a scenario where they're obviously valuing education or higher pursuits. And so, you have to, in order for you to take those steps, and you're saying something, you're making a statement, you are, you're there because you stood on years, sacrificing years trying to, getting good grades to place yourself there. You're taking a chance with spending money on this thing to make sure that you position yourself well. So you're putting yourself in the best supermarket possible for life partners. It's important and this is something no one told me when we were starting off, because again, our parents were like, hey, you had time for all them relationship and love later on, get your education first. Well, they're right. But no, at the same time too, it's also right to focus as early as possible on the person that you think you can build a life with, because you're wasting time when you're not building with the right person. You're wasting time and you're wasting money. And you see that after you've gone through the wrong couple of people and, other life-changing incidents that happen that last for 18 years and above. So it's important to start off the right way in building your life so that you have a chance to really settle in and really settle in and accumulate wealth, accumulate assets, and walk in common with somebody that's helping you to build a family, to build a life.
You beat me to one of my takeaways. You start mentioning your spouses, meeting your spouses in college. That was actually one of the numbers that I wanted to go over. So basically, 28% of graduates attended the same college as their spouses. That is another fun fact. So that is one of the benefits of going to college. 9 times out of 10, you might find your significant other. Yeah.
I wonder what the percentage is for graduates that realize they should have married the boy or the girl from college.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you either a lot of people end up marrying their high school sweethearts as well, though. So that that's another fact. But okay, so another con that I went into a little bit, but I didn't go heavy on it. The average person that goes to college does not graduate. All right, so the average person that enrolls in college, okay, out of the average person that enrolls in college, 19% of those people do not return for their second year. 19% of the people who enroll initially in college do not come back to do the second year. So yeah, like I said, these numbers, numbers don't lie. That's why I like to, research numbers and things of that nature. So how important is a degree if you don't finish, or how important is college if you don't actually graduate? That's my question to you.
Well, here's the thing, because when you threw that number up, my question that followed up with that was, what percentage of people that started college and stopped, what percentage of them return to get some type of higher education, either through a trade school or completing a degree, because then I got to wonder what percentage of the American public is actually has a college degree, a 4-year college degree. I don't have access to it right now. But, when you start, like, for example, when you're kind of sitting down at the table in a political environment, and you're kind of talking about legislation and things that are coming up, policies and bills that you want to push. A lot of times not a lot of times, all the time, you have people from offices of the primary elected official. They're always kind of sitting down, and what you're talking about right now is actually kind of things that they bring up on behalf of their bosses in order to try to tailor legislation or policies that will help those groups of people. And you'd be surprised, it happens more times than not. A lot of times they get, public service get a bad rap, and it's just so funny how you put something in motion and enact it, and then you stop it. It's just like baking a cake. Sometimes you put the sugar, your flour, your eggs in, a little bit of milk in, you put it in the oven, and then, hopefully when you bring it out, it tastes just like grandma had it. But sometimes it doesn't. And that's how the same thing with society. A lot of times these guys, they went to college, they thought, okay, I'm going to go here, I'm going to try to, make this work, and they found out it wasn't them. Or they were going there because of someone else's pushing. They want me to go to be a doctor, but you didn't have the doctor skills in there. The doctor mindset wasn't there, but you went there because mom and dad told you need to get this skill and get it locked in so you can have a good life. And so, to some degree, can you really count that? Because the boy was a musician, or the girl, boy or girl, but they were really musically inclined, but you didn't want to encourage them to go to college to be a musician. Okay, you set them up for a fail with a little bit of a little debt behind it. And, it's these nuances I kind of wonder if anybody has ever really kind of delved into. You see so many people that have so much, so much talent, so much natural skill level that was never properly groomed, that was never properly developed because of a lot of ways that we used to, think with our one-dimensional approaches. Hey, you got to do it this way. You got to do it this way. I wonder how many people did we really destroy by not having the proper outlets for them to be able to invest in honing their skill. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, I wasn't trying to cut you off. They were asking a question in the chat, but you was going in so hard that I didn't want to, I didn't want to. But a lot of people didn't. They came in late to the chat. They want to know who's actually speaking right now. So I'll tell them your YouTube name, and you can give them your real name. All right, guys. So this is Delicious Media. So a lot of you guys who've been watching all my lives on a day-to-day basis, this is Delicious Media. All right, but he'll give you a formal introduction again.
Hello, everybody. Like Ty said, my YouTube name is Delicious Media, but my name is Delicious. So I'll tell you a little story about that. Matter of fact, how I got the name. When I grew up mostly with my stepdad. And their last names, I won't say it over there, but their last names were different than mine. And so when I was younger, it kind of bothered me in school because my first name was already weird enough, for them. And then my last name didn't match my mom's, my dad's. I'm like, what is going on? So I had to be, I just clearly remember first and second grade, I used to always go to my mom and say, hey, I want my name changed. And she didn't know how to respond to that because I want my name the same as you guys. I was really just upset. Like, I don't know why y'all did this in the first place. And so one day, I remember it's like it was a Spike Lee movie where, you're seeing tunnel vision. And I said to her, hey, I want my name changed. The reason why your name is different because you have a different dad. And I was like, whoa. I just remember everything just getting cloudy and dark and it seemed like I was just shooting off into space. I couldn't believe it. And so, the guy, my stepdad, but I don't even call him, he's just my dad. But he is such a testament to him because the way that he took care of business with me in the household never gave me any inkling that I wasn't his own kid by blood. So, but anyway, when I finally caught up with my real dad's mother, my grandmother, his mother, my grandmother, maternal grandmother, I asked her after a while, I said, hey, how did I get this name? And so she started laughing. She said, well, because I'm the third. And so she said, I'm going to tell you something. It was around Christmas time when your grandfather was born. And the women were in the house and they were baking these cakes and cookies and hams and all this stuff. And he hadn't been named yet. And so one of your great-grandmother's best friends said, why don't we name him Delicious, since everything smells so delicious around here? They laughed, they joked about it, but it stuck. So the joke stuck. So he became Licious. So he was the first, and my dad was second. I'm the third. So it did derive from Delicious. So that's why, as I'm starting out business ventures or whatever, Delicious Media. That's where the Delicious comes from. It's really a reach back to where the name derived from.
Okay. Yeah. Since you did break down that, I'm gonna give people a little history on me as far as my name. So I am a second or a junior. My son is a third, and obviously my father is a senior. My original name when I was born was actually Faison. My mother, I don't know, I think she was heavy off medication. She used to watch this guy named Faison off of the soap opera show. I think it's All My Children. Okay, so I'm glad, like I said, after that medicine wore off, she did, indeed change my name to Todd. This is actually new to my father. I actually mentioned to him. I actually mentioned this to him probably like a month ago. I told him growing up, I didn't really like my name. And he didn't really. He never knew that. People used to think I was white. Just based on, like I said, my first name. But it benefited me in the future when I, went to apply for jobs and things of that nature. But when I did, actually get the job and people saw me, they kind of like, oh, he's black. But like I said, it was a gift and a curse. But like I said, in middle school, high school, I used to get teased a lot, or I used to have to prove myself more just based on, like I said, my name. I remember my freshman year in high school, the teacher was taking attendance. Hey David, Sarah, just going down the list. And then I can't forget it. I knew my name was coming up, and the teacher said Todd Givens, you know. And I waited a while. Everybody was looking left and right, like, where the white kid at? And I finally got up. I always had like a light voice. I got up. I say, yeah, here. They like, that's Ty. Like, yeah. Like I said, I didn't really like my name, but I grew into it. You guys see, I'm comfortable with it now. That's actually the name of my YouTube platform. So eventually everybody's gonna know my name, but yeah, like I said, that's the history behind it. My name was Faison originally. Yeah, but all right, all right. Okay, so I know a lot of people that just coming in that never watched it live. Let's get back on topic a little bit. I'll let you do one more con of going to college. I'll name one more con, and then we'll do a takeaway. All right.
Again, I keep going back to the biggest con that I say that we're seeing right now is going to college, but you have no clear plan on what you're going to do with the degree that you're hoping to get. You have no clear plan on exactly how you plan on making money with it. That's the bottom line, because that's what you're doing. You're going to get a piece of paper that tells the world that you are educated in this particular skill set, and you should be able to step on a job and contribute. And one of the things I did appreciate that, because not only did I go to DeVry, I went to Albany State College in Georgia for a while too, and I got to see the chance of, my first college experience was actually the vocational, which is I consider vocational school, business vocational school, which is DeVry. After that was Albany State, which is a traditional 4-year school. So I saw the differences night and day, and I was like, wow, at Albany State, not just for no other reason other than they were just a traditional 4-year institution. I just felt like you guys are really wasting a lot of time. Why am I sitting in a classroom and you're talking about theory? Where is the computer? Where is the computer? It should be in front of me. I should be typing on screen as we go along with that. And they had that saved for, another month or two away. Whereas at a school like DeVry at that point, busting your knuckles on that thing, you're connecting wires and pulling them out and answering real time. So, because I've been to the other style of school, I can see that the 4-year university was like, wow, a lot of wasted time, in this curriculum. So again, if you've been wound up, just your parents or grandparents put pressure on you to engage in the pursuit for the universities. Number one, that's not what you really want to do, and number two, you're just going there to figure it out. In this day and age, you're wasting time. You're accumulating debt that is going to be tremendously difficult to pay back because you're not ready for it.
I like that. I like that, man. You been dropping jewels on jewels on jewels. You said you couldn't hold the light to Ray Nelson, but you
I'm just giving
fighting.
you
You
gray
fighting.
hair. I'm just giving you gray hair. Anybody with gray hair tell you the same thing.
All right. I'm gonna do two. I'm gonna do two more. I'm gonna do two more cons. All right. One I'm going to say is stress from college. You know, a lot of people don't think about the long term stress that going to college, does to your mind. Like I said, you being in college, you'll probably be able to piggyback a little better than me. I'm only going on statistics and research. You've actually been in college, so do you feel like it's a lot of stress related with going to college? Oh yeah, like I said, I don't want to go too deep. I'll let you piggyback.
No, no. My personal answer is no. The
Okay.
only that I ever felt, of course, is when you're getting ready for finals. Maybe midterms or finals, because you're trying to, get it all in and make sure you get a passing grade. And the only stress that would have, and mostly the stress that came from that, is because you weren't paying attention and you weren't doing the work in the other weeks and months leading up to it. But as far as being stressful, no. I was not, again, other people in the chat can comment too, but I've never found, and I didn't see a lot of my other friends, I've never heard stress related to it. Even if I had to say with those that had a little bit of financial difficulty, in the end, something usually kind of worked out with the council or whatever, finding some grants, other funding to kind of help them out, or they just went home. But I never heard stress as a part of it from my own personal experience. That's all.
What about the people that went to college solely because that's what their parents felt was necessary
Well,
or what had to happen?
yeah,
So they're
yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. You go ahead and finish talking. I'm sorry.
No, no, that's basically what I was gonna say. So, like, what about those people who might not be in college for their personal for personal reasons, like it's just due to their father or mother, basically, since birth or since middle school or since elementary, like you're going to college. You have no like for those people who are forced, the stress from that, like I said, actually going through college and you had no intent, so you don't think no stress comes from that.
Well, what I saw in the two cases, for example, that I saw scenarios like that, I did not see stress from the college experience, but I saw stress because it was caused from the family environment. And you got to think about something. If you have a kid, a young adult, who is in a life pattern like that, where you're basically still trying to please mom and dad, it's like being at, you feel like you're at home, even though you're, about 4,000 miles away. And so, but that was something that carried over from home. That's part of your family upbringing. When they got to college, they were actually having a lot of fun. What they ended up doing, they started changing classes, changing electives and different things, and they started taking the kind of classes that they liked, but they weren't necessarily part of they weren't beneficial for their overall degree program. So you would kind of see, and that caused another mess in and of itself. But when they got to college, I mean, they were really, they were doing their own thing, but I didn't see the stress was caused when they were having dealings back and forth, talking to mom and talking to dad. Now that was just my two experiences that I kind of saw something similar to that, And again, that goes back to, I'll throw this little nugget out there too. It wasn't until years later when I got into the real world of work and you can sit down and you can actually see the differences in other ethnic groups and their families, for example, Indian Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, white Americans, of course. And you can kind of have some conversations. Oh, you know what? Here's another pro of going to college. Mm-hmm. Road trips. Road trips were probably some of the best introduction to life and introduction to, wow, this is what I've been missing all this time. Because, hey, I stopped the story. But road trips are another gelling point for a particular group of folks. It could be roommates, it could be just friends that happen, a group of guys just kind of get together, y'all pile into one or two cars, hit the road. We were in Atlanta, DeVry, and one of my good friends, Stacy, his family were military. They were based in Redstone Army Base in, I think, Huntsville, Alabama. So we just piled up in the car one Friday after class. I don't know where money came from. I don't know how we even had gas to fill up these tanks, but we were gone. And so we drove from Atlanta to Huntsville to surprise his parents. There was about 6 of us in the car. And so we just go to his mom's house, and she wasn't expecting us. We just all pile in. And I don't know where we slept, on the couch, on the floor, some pillows, whatever. Had the time of our life. And
Mm-hmm.
she cooked like you wouldn't believe, just happy to have kids home or whatever. I mean, an experience like that you can't do that as an adult. It doesn't work the same, does it?
Mm-hmm.
So the only chance you get a chance to experience life like that would be through something like, the impromptu nature of college. But again, going back to, what we're saying about the kids that are trying to still please mom and dad, but that's not your natural cup of tea in terms of, what they want you to study. Eventually what ends up happening is there has to be a reckoning, because guess what? The grades are going to flunk you out, or they're eventually get to a point where, I'm just not doing this anymore. They have their own reckoning there. But it's more family related, family pressures, as opposed to those kids just feeling miserable in the environment. But I'll leave it at that.
All right. So my last con will be that you actually getting your degree does not guarantee job preparation. I know this personally, not from graduating college, but going through an apprenticeship. Doing the carpentry trade. You on your first year as an apprentice, and you're trying to become a journeyman, and you go through this thought process like, all right, I'm literally about to get $40 an hour, but I don't feel like I know everything that's required to say that I am a journeyman carpenter. So it would probably be equivalent of you doing, like I said, 4 or 6 years to become a lawyer, and you know you get what I'm saying, and you literally get into the field, and you don't feel like you are prepared. You're fully prepared. Like I said, we can change the jobs and say, a nurse or a doctor. Just because you got a piece of paper and you put the time in does not mean you're necessarily gonna feel like you're prepared to do your due diligence in the field that you pursue. But yeah, like I said, I'll let you piggyback off of that.
Well, no, you're right. You can get that 4-year degree. You get a 6-year degree. You go to school to be a doctor all the way through. You're not prepared to do anything until you actually hit the hospital as a doctor, for example. Until you hit the hospital, and you have to go through. The name escapes me right now. The period they have to go through, where they're basically interning, and it's years of a grind and a gruel like that. But yeah, you're not prepared for anything until you hit the real world. It's true. You got paper, you got gravitas. I'm gonna give you an example of something. I was a good friend of mine, who's still a good friend of mine too, but I met him through his sister. We worked at a restaurant when I was in college in Atlanta, and became really good friends. Her brother was a chiropractor, and so I went over to meet him a couple times, and nothing big. He had in their apartment in Atlanta, he had all this chiropractic equipment, the bench, the tables, the percussors, all this stuff, charts and everything in their apartment, because I guess it come from one clinic, and that didn't work out, so he brought it home until he could figure out his next move for a clinic. And so I had no clue really what a chiropractor was, and no interest in it really. But we became good friends through conversation, and I helped him out a couple times with a couple of computer problems, nothing that really advanced. And so at that point, I said, you know what, I want to open up a practice in Hilton Head, South Carolina. I didn't know anything about Hilton Head. So he eventually went there, and I kind of followed along just because we become friends at the time. So when he gets there, he goes to the clinic of his professor, who was a doctor at the time. One of the better, the university was Life University in Atlanta. They're well known for chiropractors. And so that doctor had long since really left the clinic. 1 or 2 people come in, he treat them, but he was so busy making PowerPoint presentations for seminars is where he was making his cash. He wasn't worried about clinics anymore. So you got a young doctor in there, 1 or 2 years experience, he's ready to go. People would come in, my boy would treat them, and they'd be feeling like $1 million. So eventually he settled and bought that clinic himself. So he asked me to kind of help him out, because I actually had a little bit of cash saved up from waiting tables and other stuff too. It wasn't much, but it was enough to, fill in the gap. So we had a tentative partnership going. Now, at the time, I still didn't have my degree, because I had the training for it. But, I went through the classes. But I still hadn't finished it off yet. And so, but nonetheless, hey, listen, 1 + 1 is 2. So some things are just common sense, and you just walking along. You need a permit. You go down to the office. You fill out the paperwork. You do what you do. You get a permit. You need to call this person, that person, whatever. He just wanted to focus on care. So what ended up happening, we had a partnership. We split stuff 50-50. It went great for the most part. He was a great guy. I learned in that period of time by watching his colleagues who would come in, who were also, chiropractors or certified acupuncturists, whatever. Some surgeons and guys come in for neurology, all those other things. So when he was talking, yeah, my partner this, my partner that, and they look at me and say, okay, well, where'd you go to school for, your degree in, chiropractic? Where'd you go, Life or the other place out west you can think of? I said, no, I'm not a chiropractor. Oh. And so immediately they kind of, pulled their heads back and just, reverse, and, I just became invisible. I'm like, really? Okay. This is half my stuff. All the stuff you see here, I'm vouching for, I've either paid for, I do pay for. It's half my stuff, but because I don't have that DR or that DC by my name, the respect level most of the time kind of shoot down. It's like, okay, got you. Even though I got ownership, but because I don't have the paper behind me, you guys don't give me that respect. Got you. So that was a learning experience in and of itself, and that's how that community really still is for the most part. If you don't have the paper behind it. Now, I say all that to say that again, when you're going to the schools, know exactly how you plan on using them, and and where you plan to go with that. Because what I actually did from that, when I went back to Atlanta, I thought about going to chiropractic school. I went to Life University. I actually took a course for about 2 quarters, but the problem was with the job that I had at the time, it just was impossible. I have to really go cold turkey, quit the job that I had, or and become a full-time student. And I was just like, when I really got into the particulars of the group, like, I really don't care for this that much. So I just pulled out of that and just continued forward with the business admin stuff, and I don't regret it. But it was a chance to kind of get to see that no, this clearly isn't for me, and you just go out you strike your own path, going forward.
Okay. So it sounds like we're mirror images of each other. So you pursued college, I pursued a trade. Like I said, if you had to rewind, you would probably do the same thing, right? You would probably pursue the degree.
Oh yeah, I would.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Go
ahead. Go ahead.
Were you gonna say something else?
No. I was gonna say that I probably would have pursued a trade. I probably, so we're in agreement that we don't regret the choices that we made.
No, I'll say no on this end. I know you don't.
Mm-hmm.
All
right.
Going forward, again, going back to the point I was kind of trying to make. I think I sidetracked myself.
Mm-hmm.
But going forward is going to start have to happen now. Is you can't wait for some big government authority, some big push from other interests to set it up. What you have to really do right now, 2021, staring into 22, staring into 23, is realize that we're really, all bets are off. The norms, the social norms, they have called a timeout of this thing. And so my ideal scenario, and I talked to you about this before because I said basically what I see you doing on YouTube and the way you carry this stuff out, what you're doing is you're actually creating the forefront for something that's going to be very powerful in how people are going to become educated. We know now, being in the real world of life, for example, what are some of the important things that you do every day that you need? All right, when you get up in the morning, you probably check the bank account to make sure everything's still in there. Make sure nothing's been taken out that should have been taken out prematurely. We know we're looking at our credit scores. Then we got to figure out, okay, by what day of the month is it, what bill is going to be coming due, this and that, and this is just you're trying to walk forward. So we already know what real life is about. Unfortunately, currently still with the state of public education, or education in general, but with state of the way that our kids are going to school, we know what you're not getting to really make you successful in life. We already know that now. So why do we still stay on the merry-go-round of allowing that for that to be their only experiences? You're not going to get the school systems to shift on the fly to give your kids a better education. You and I both know credit should be taught from 2nd grade to 3rd grade going forward. Am I right or wrong?
I agree.
What you said the other day, when I told you this before, what you said it didn't blow my mind during the podcast, but it blew my mind when I was in the bed doing a mental replay, like, oh my God, of course it made sense. He kept saying, don't get your first card as a Premier or a Credit One. That would be stupid. But in the mind of someone who's thirsty, I gotta have something. I just need something. Give me this thing because they'll take me right now. It's $500. I'll be straight and I get something else later on. Not realizing 10 years down the road, like you said, hey, that card, it will only go up to maybe $1,000, maybe $2,000, maybe. It will only go up to the rest of your cards in 10 years easily have credit limits of $35, $10, $15,000. But because you started off wrong, you pigeonholed yourself with your oldest instrument to an amount that it can't get higher. If you told that amount, that lesson should be taught to 7th, 8th grade at least. At least. So now, oh, okay, so I don't need to do that. So maybe I can get my parents, and they can help me get on, their credit to help build up. So I don't even have. That's not the only option that I have. Something as simple as that. Even telling me the credit score is going up and down. That should be taught in schools. You should understand what the impacts are with real scenarios. You still have math involved. You still have reading involved. You have writing involved in all those things. Why wouldn't you put it into school? So that way my kids can be turbocharged. Those kids should know when they come out of class. I don't even know if they still teach checking accounts in school. We used to know how to balance an account. But I just don't know what the curriculum is. They don't even teach cursive in schools anymore. So because the school systems have chosen to embark on another journey, well, that increases our opportunity as adults, as parents, to make sure, like, you know what, I'm going to make sure that you still get these skills. I don't care what they say, but I'm going to make sure that you're ready to take over this household in an emergency by the time you're 18, 19 years old. If something happens to me and I fall down, I might have a damn stroke, and I can't function like I used to. I should know that the people that I depend on the most, my children that I feed in this bad boy, that y'all can pick up the ball and keep this household moving forward. So we can't depend on them to do that. We have to have separate academies, separate groups, like what you're doing with Extra Credit Matters, to send the kids to, send the parents to understand this stuff. We have to create our own solution.
Long-term goal. By the time that I'm dead and gone, I hope that I've caused a big enough impact to where credit is a major subject in high school, at least. If it's not middle school, high school. If we could just make credit a subject. So you got English, you got math, you got social studies. Which one did I miss? Did I say English? But yeah, but if we can make credit like a subject matter in high school, like I said, by the time that I'm dead and gone, I'm happy. I'm not rolling over in my grave. But I think most of the things that's taught in college and most of the things that's taught in high school are not. A lot of people will tell you, a lot of college. It's not just me talking. It's a lot of college graduates that will tell you some of the stuff or most of the stuff that they learn, they're not even applying in their everyday life or their jobs. Just some of this stuff is filler, in my opinion. Some of this stuff that you learn in high school and you learn in college is just filler. Let's replace the filler with actual content, like I said, like credit. You should know that, you should know in high school, these credit cards you should steer away from. You should know in high school not to borrow anything that you cannot pay back. Just common sense thing. It's common sense to us, but, it should be common sense to, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds growing up. But like I said, it don't start in the schools, it starts in the homes. You get what I'm saying? We're sitting here talking about credit and learning about credit on a day-to-day basis. So it's no reason, it's no excuse for our kids to go through the same process of being 17, being 18, and having no knowledge on credit. They should know the range between the minimum credit score and the maximum credit score. They should know the 3 different types of credit repair if they did mess their credit up. They should know that when they graduate and they go to college that they already have a 740, 750 credit score, because us as parents and us being responsible, we've already put them in position by adding them as an authorized user to our credit cards. You get what I'm saying? It starts with us. It starts with us. We failed, like I said, we failed as parents if we do not, if we allowed our children to make the same mistakes that we made. That's the biggest thing that I see. I done heard so many people like, well, I'll do this to you because my parents did this to me. It should be the opposite. My parents put me through this, so I will never allow my children to go through this. It's kind of backwards, but I've heard people say that. Like, oh, well, my mother and my dad, they didn't do this and that. Well, it looked like you're not doing this and that either. So, who really wrong? Both of y'all. I'm glad I had my glasses off when I'm, because, sometimes we got to get, we got to talk real talk. You cannot blame the school system. You got to blame yourself. because we done learned so much stuff. You know, like you done probably learned how much stuff do you feel like you've learned in these couple lives versus you get what I'm trying to say. Like over everything that you've been watching on YouTube and other videos, how impactful have these lives been as far as you're not gonna watch somebody on a day-to-day basis and learn something new every time that person talks. I don't care who the person is. I don't care what the subject matter is. You get what I'm saying? Like you're literally okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm trying to think how to quantitate. You know, I'm trying to think how to quantitate exactly how beneficial they have been, and I couldn't, if I just said numbers like that, you really didn't get the true appreciation for it. But I tell you what, the ability the ability for me to, if I can make an analogy, is the difference between having days that are cloudy and gray and then literally seeing the break in the sunshine. The sunshine, clarity. And the sunshine represents, I can see the way forward for the path, just in terms of strategy. So, again, I'm telling you, the live that was the most, it was one thing, just like it just kept blowing my mind. And some of the people that are, if they're in the chat like now, like Gigi and Mello, they remember too that when you were basically showing, hey, this is all of these guys are doing. They're only three methods. And trust me, out of these three methods, either one, two, or maybe a combination of all of them are being done for your credit reports. And so this is what it is. I mean, that blew me away. I was like, wait a minute. First of all, I've been waiting in some cases with some agencies for months, better part of a year, for them to come back. And you mean to tell me that's all you guys had to do? And you had me pausing my life, making decisions to buy things or to make a move over here financially, to engage in a contract or something, because you guys were not doing the basic stuff. It's just incredible. But the other thing too was, again, when I heard you make the more sophisticated stuff, I mean, think about it. For a person to say, hey, basically, listen, what I will do is I will take the hard inquiries off your record. I didn't really appreciate before what that really meant. I'm like, well, I don't have that many hard inquiries anyway, so there ain't no big deal. It's just an inquiry. And not understanding, no, buddy, that's a big deal, especially when you want to go for the more advanced stuff. But how about another thing? Like I said, because of talking to you, I developed a strategy. You know what? Even though I have a decent experience score now, my goal for me, my Mercedes, my BMW, in my version of what I've been wanting to attain, for these two cars, a Chase Products and an American Express. And for some reason, the Amex has just always been unattainable because of some weird situation or just a glitch with them or whatever. And so I'm like, those are the things I really want. Not to charge them up to buy a whole bunch of stuff, but to have it in the arsenal. And you know what I'm going to do? I said, well, now that Todd explained to me what he can do, tell you what I'm going to do. I am not going to apply for this thing. So I tell you what, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to go ahead and get these authorized trade lines. I'm going to let them soak on there for a minute. And when those scores and that, when they have my information, you got my social, you have my address, you have all this stuff in the system now, then I will strike and get those cards. And I dare you to deny me at that point, because I'm in the system and you see me with a high level. That's the higher level operation that I got by listening to your stuff. Before, just what I would have done. As soon as the first number crept up one more, the main number crept up one more number, I've been applying. So I'm like, I don't have to do that anymore. When you have the ability, when you have options, you're in the catbird state. You can sit back and take a look at the land and decide, I'm going to go in this direction. I'm going to go in this direction. That's the power that you give people that really want to approach this thing smart. And I'm hoping that, I know that the people that are following, that look on there, they realize that, like, you know what, he just put me back in charge of things. If you could go back to 18 years old, what would you do differently? Probably a couple things. And you do them more sure-footedly and smartly to set yourself up. Well, it's the same thing here. So I got a second chance at a good score. Well, guess what? That score is going to work for me because I know how to do it now. I know how to, and what not to do now. So that's the benefit of what I've gotten by those lives.
All right. I'm glad you mentioned something because I want to ask you a question. So if you did go back to 18 years old and you could tell your 18-year-old something, what would you tell your 18-year-old self if you can go back and say anything? I would say, I would say and I thought about this before too. First of all, because I was so entrepreneurial minded at that time, I couldn't focus on school and a lot of things too. I would tell young me at the time, leave that stuff alone.
Leave it alone because you got plenty of time for it. Matter of fact, do it when you got more money to do it in the first place. So go ahead, lock it down with school, get it out, get it knocked out, get it out the way, and also to appreciate the relationships along the way too, because those things produce fruit, just like a fruit tree, apple tree and a pecan tree. Those relationships produce fruit along the way. And so that's the number one thing I would say. The second thing I would say to myself is, hey, figure out where you really want to be. Go get there and stay there. So instead of bouncing around this location, bouncing around this location, no. Where do you really envision yourself? Where do you really feel it? Where do you, when you wake up in the morning and the sun just shines the brightest, the air is the sweetest, the water is the coldest and the freshest. Where is it for you? Go get there. Because one of the things that you do in life as you get older, you start realizing, you know what? Especially when you're someplace that you don't really want to be and you desire to be somewhere else too, your life is really in stasis because you're wasting time with all the stuff that you're doing. Life is very cyclical. You can judge life sometimes by seasons. Christmas. How many Christmases you been there? Because every Christmas you're missing. Every Christmas I spend in one location, I'm missing Christmases in the other location where they're really supposed to be counting, where I'm supposed to be spending my golden years and winding things down. So you don't form the kind of relationship that you really want to because you're like, I ain't gonna be here that long anyway. But in the meantime, anytime not being there that long turns out to be another year, then another year, then another year. So go to where you really want to be anyway and go fight it out. That's the second thing I would tell young me. And then I guess the third thing would actually be to lock in on the person that stop playing games and lock in on the person that I really felt that there was worth starting a family with. Those three things.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna try to give you my answer. If I could go back and tell my 18-year-old self something, um, me personally, I wouldn't tell my 18-year-old self anything, and I'm gonna explain why. All right. So every scar that I ever got throughout life, like some of you guys noticed, some of you guys might not even have seen it. Got a little scar right here, right? This came from carpentry. I had, fooling around on a job. I had, hit like a corner of a wood door, like a handle, basically. But I had split my, my chin open. Like you can't see it as much, but this was a scar. What I'm trying to explain about the scar created a lesson. All right, the lesson created a message. So I'm going a little deep, but basically what I'm trying to say is, if I change anything or I tell my 18-year-old self something, that's going to change how everything turned out for me. So everything that I went through prepared me and put me in position to be where I'm at now. So what I'm saying is, if I gave a message to my 18-year-old self, I probably wouldn't have had the same wife that I got right now. I probably wouldn't have the son that I got upstairs. I probably wouldn't have these YouTube subscribers just following what I'm saying on a day-to-day basis. I'll be in a whole different position. Just that little advice might change everything. So while things were occurring, in my 20s and, when I was a kid, like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have did this or shouldn't have did that. I don't regret anything. Everything happens for a reason. Even people who passed away, we all have a expiration date. That's why I try to tell people, it's not what you do for people. It's about how you make people feel. You get what I'm saying? I can drive a 2035 Lamborghini. You're not going to remember the car that I drove. You're going to remember how it made you feel while I was with you. You get what I'm saying? So, that's what I want you guys to take away. So, like I said, to answer my question without getting too deep is, I wouldn't change anything because it made me the person that I am today. Those mistakes, those scars, those failures made me the person that I am today. So, like I said, I'm not changing nothing.
There's no wrong answer.
Yeah.
There's no wrong answer. Again, it's one of those, like right now I'm talking to you on my outside patio. I'm just looking up the trees, listening. And, again, what ends up happening, case in point, when you were calling, I was actually across the street at a neighbor's house. He's having a tree torn down or cut down behind his house. It's just a tree that over time has grown in on the side of that house. I measured it. The doggone thing has a diameter almost 5 feet. 4.5 to 5 feet. It's huge. And over the years, we always take turns to be good neighbors and go over there, get a ladder, and get up there and chainsaw and hack away at it. Okay, that was 5, 6 years ago, and even 4 years ago, and 3 years ago, we did it. And I'm looking again, and that tree is humongous. And so what he's finally doing now, he's paying about $2,000, $2,000 to get this thing finally cut down and hauled away, right down to the to make it a stump, which has never happened. And so the reason why I'm telling you that boring story is a couple reasons. The guy cutting it down, he just made $2,000 for probably about, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours worth of work with his truck that he bought from an auction somewhere that used to be a retired utility company truck. Young black guy got it. He got his chainsaw up there, just hacking away, hacking away. $2,000, rock and roll, keep on going. Probably no college experience whatsoever, but $2,000 is $2,000. Doesn't matter where it came from. And so in the meantime, that tree, it's just, again, part of that cycle of life. You know, is what am I thinking about right now? It's July 2021, about to go in August, my birthday, my birth month. And so, you know, going into the age that I'm going into now, what am I thinking about? Well, I've got to get ready for winter pretty soon. I got to start tearing down some of these walls, buying some more insulation, getting some more windows in. You know, that's the journey. And so, again, it's one of those things like, you know, a case in point. When I was younger, I'm going to give you a story. This guy who was a mentor of mine told me years ago. I'm going to substitute one of the words, you know, for the purpose of the show.
Mm-hmm.
But you've heard the story about the young bull and the old bull, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've heard that one?
Yeah.
Young bull. Well, for the people at home, they may not have heard it. But you got a young bull and an old bull in the pasture, and they're, you know, walking along, grazing along. And then all of a sudden, the young bull looks up. He taps the older one on the shoulder. Says, "Hey, man, look at all those bulls down, those cows down there. I tell you, we should run down that hill and get one of them cows and touch them." And so he proceeds to take off. He's about to, you know, tear down that hill, and the old bull grabs him by the collar. Hold on 1 minute, man. I said, what? I said, I tell you, I got a good idea. Why don't we walk down the hill and we can touch them all? And I just, I bust out laughing the first time I heard that in the unadulterated version of it. And it made crystal sense. It's true. You know, this thing, to some degree, you know, a lot of this stuff ain't going anywhere. And it's still dependent on you and the level of excitement or passion you bring to it. And so, you know, again, what did you say? This is a journey. Well, and the life is a journey the same way, too. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be something that's coming up. And you start learning that the older that you get and the more responsibilities that you get. When you say, at some point, you got to realize, you know what? I'm not going to stress over this. Yeah, the roof leaks. Guess what? Roofs leak all the time. When I get the money, I'm going to fix it. You know, same thing with the toilet downstairs. That's leaking. Okay, I'll try to fix it. If not, it's always going to be something. Every time you think you'll be able to put a couple grand away, something's going to come up. It's life. And so to be able to, if you can program that in, when you start knowing that you program that in while you're moving ahead, I think that's when you start unlocking the master codes, you know. Mm-hmm. So, but again, that's just my little 2 cents on that. I think, you know, again, everybody's journey is a different one, and I get very excited for you because I can hear the passion, and, you know, there's just so much you really have to tell. You're so, good God, literally a year from now, yeah, it really will be hard to contact you because there'll be so many more responsibilities. And I think it's a great thing. I want to see the growth. I want to see that journey as well, too. I'm just here to tell you that it gets sweeter over time, especially when you stay focused and you're working together as a team. You and your wife and team working together as a team, and you got your young buddy coming up, and probably a couple more along the way, too. I mean, that's the ride. That is the ride. And, you know, that's it. Let me get off that.
No, that was perfect. I'm trying to see, that might be the way we need to end the show. That was actually perfect. Yeah. So guys, the few of you that's watching right now, you gotta enjoy the journey. All right, that 2021 Mercedes. All right, I know you want it right now, but it's gonna be a 2020. It's gonna be a 2070. I promise you. All right, they don't start changing the body styles until every 4 years. Like you're all right, it's gonna be there. All right, that building, that house that you try to secure. All right, it might not be here in a couple years, but guess what? It's gonna be a better house. It's gonna be a better building. It's gonna be a better apartment building for you to secure. So just enjoy the journey. Stop rushing. I wanted to reiterate. I wanted to bring back something that you said earlier, but I didn't touch on it. But everybody, I can repair my own credit. That's why you hear a lot of people who repair credit say the same thing. Yeah, you can repair your own credit. You can also do your own heart surgery. You can also do your own brain surgery. That's exactly the same thing. All right. So like I said, that's what I want to leave you with. Enjoy the journey. All right, enjoy the journey. Please stop rushing. It's gonna be there. It's gonna be there. You just have to be. You just have to. You have to be ready when it comes. You have to be ready when it comes. But it's gonna be there.
And let me. I just want to insert one thing,
Okay.
especially about the journey part. And again, I know it's easier. I know it's easier said than done because we want things right now. We want it. It's just we can't survive at this level and that level. I get it. Trust me, I do. But again, when we're talking about the stresses and when we're talking about the stresses and we're talking about all the things that just kind of bring you that can take you to a dark place, you really have to go to the matrix model almost, where you're just slowing down time so that you can see every bullet that's coming, so you can just ping them off, by yourself. Just get them out of your way, get them out of your get them out of harm's way for yourself. I can't stress enough the fact that, listen, but Todd, here's the thing too. A lot of folks could not be patient because they didn't have the right care. So that's why you're so powerful in this thing, because what people can see through what you're doing with individual cases. That's why I was like, hey, feel free to show my stuff if you want to. The problem with a lot of people is I got to get to the right person. Once I get to the right person, only then can I put my stuff in neutral. But I can't blame a person for being so anxious before, because a lot of these cats out there are just shady. They are not telling the truth about the process. They're not telling the truth about what they do. And they forget that you're dealing with real people in real lives. People that, like you say, oh my God, they just have to have a car. They have to have a house. They want to get a chance to fulfill their dreams. And it's not happening quick enough. And so, the tension is there. I want people to know that once you get with Todd and you work with him, you genuinely work with him, you're straightforward with him, this is a person that's going to help you that can help you put everything in park and let him guide you through. It's so important. So that's why, Todd, it's just important that what you're doing right now is because a lot of folks just can't have that trust based on past record to let the process work itself through. So I hope they realize they can do that working with you. And that's not I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm trying to sell peace of mind. Trust me, that's all I'm trying to sell. Peace of mind.
All right. I think the perfect way to end this live would be, for the people watching, should you go to college or shouldn't you? Yes or no. So I'll let you do your yes or no and your why. Just brief, and then I'll do it, and that'll be the end of this show.
Well, I'll leave you, brother. Thank you for the time, and I appreciate everything. It's great talking to you as always, sir.
Oh wait, no. I think you missed what I said. I said.
Wrapping it up.
Oh, okay. No. I was saying I want to wrap it up by you saying, should the people watching go to college or shouldn't they, and why? Yes or no. And then I was gonna, kind of do my, yes or no.
Yeah. If you're a person that definitely is interested in pursuing a field in nursing, in healthcare, in something technical in nature, even architecture, engineering, things that are very, very things that nobody can just walk off the street and do. By all means, and you have the passion to do it. That's the big thing. You have the passion to do it. By all means, pursue it. There's nothing wrong with going to university. The only thing that you should be cognizant of is the fact that it is a business, and the clock is ticking. The meter runs from the time that you go in. So if you go in with the understanding that there's a cost to perfecting yourself, there's a cost to bettering yourself. So make use of your time and get the most out of the institution while you're there. Absolutely, I recommend it. If you're a person that has a natural ability and you're not necessarily motivated to do that, by all means, don't feel obligated to do it. But by all means, make sure that you take an effort to study that trade, to perfect that skill, so that you can start to support yourself. You got to figure out how do you make your way in the world and support a family as well too. So just because you don't go to college doesn't mean that you don't continue learning. That's the key.
All right, I'm not even gonna give my opinion because that was basically what I was about to say. Like I said, if you're thinking about going to college, it needs to be a career, something that you're passionate about. Like he said, education, technology field. Like I said, if you're trying to be a lawyer, you're trying to be a doctor or something like that. But don't go to college just to say you went to college. That's the best thing that I could say. There's nothing wrong with not going to college. I didn't go to college, all right? and I've started multiple businesses, successful businesses, by the way. So maybe a degree might have made me a little better in certain avenues that I pursue. But like I said, at the end of the day, I have no regrets. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, we had Licious on the show. He gave us one of the greatest shows that I've done so far. So I want to appreciate you again for joining on the fly, on the spot. Like I gotta reiterate that he was not prepared. He did not know, he did not know what we were going to discuss or how deep we were going to go into the discussion. So I just want to give you credit for giving so much, providing so much value to this live without preparation.
Oh, brother, thank you. I really appreciate you.
All right, guys. I'll see you on the next one. I'm Todd Givens, the owner of Excellent Credit Matters, and I approve this message.